Hello. I have a vendor opportunity for you coming this September 14th, 2024. I am hosting a maker's market in Southwest Michigan and would love to have for you and your products to be a part of it. You've been chosen to receive this based on your products and proximity to the state of Michigan. This is a family-friendly market and completely free to the public, held in Dowagiac, Michigan at the Sister Lakes Brewing Company. This maker's market will be held in conjunction with this year's Bigfoot and Brews conference event. Bigfoot and Brews is in its third year and is one of, if not, the premier Bigfoot conference in Michigan. The location is 1 mile from the original sightings of the Dewey Lake Monster back in 1964. The surrounding community still, to this day, embraces those sightings and the topic of Bigfoot. This maker's market will be promoted on its own merit as well as in conjunction with the conference. Promotion of this event will also run on my podcast, uNcomfortable, with over 30,000 downloads a month. The vendor area will be free and open to the public, as well as being easily accessible by the paid attendees at the conference. Vendor setup will be at 9 a.m., doors will open at 10, and the event will run until 6 p.m. on the 14th. Vendor spaces are $60 for a 10 by 10 space. You are encouraged to bring a 10 by 10 canopy, table, and chairs for two. The event is outdoors and adjacent to the brewery's beautiful beer garden. Our event has had an excess of 100 paid attendees in each of the past 2 years, and we are expecting substantial growth for this year's event. Please consider joining us as a vendor for the 2024 Bigfoot and Brews event. Links to the event Facebook page and the vendor registration form are conveniently in the body of this post. Simply fill out the vendor registration and submit it. Once you are approved, you will be able to purchase your vendor space in the add-on section of the Eventbrite ticket link for this event. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at contact.uncomfortable@gmail.com. Please consider this opportunity to join us making this year's Bigfoot and Brews the biggest and the best yet. Thank you. Welcome back to the show, my friends. I am your host, Eric Szilagyi. If you've had an uncomfortable experience and you'd like to have it shared on the show here, please get a hold of me at contact.uncomfortable@gmail.com. The world wants to hear your experience. It wants to hear your story. So please reach out to me and let's get yours on the next episode of Uncomfortable. If you haven't yet, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, both at Uncomfortable Podcast 65. And when you do, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review. That alone is the one most important thing that you, the listener, can do to help get this show out into the algorithm and out in front of more people. With more people listening, that means more great stories coming your way. Uncomfortable Linktree is up and the single best place that you can find anything and everything uncomfortable all in one spot. That's all of my uncomfortable episodes, links to our YouTube channel, links to the Penford Media documentary series that I'm featured in, and links to every other podcast that I have had the pleasure of being a guest on. That is Linktree/uncomfortable1, and uncomfortable is spelled like the logo looks with the lowercase u and the uppercase N. That is also probably the easiest way to find the Eventbrite link for tickets to Bigfoot and Brews and Spirits 2. Don't forget to check out the combo ticket for the September 4th day of event and the VIP dinner the night before. The combo ticket is a discounted price from the regular price tickets and still includes your dinner and drink. Make sure you go check out our sponsor at eufyofficial.com/videolock to see what all the fuss is about. Links to our Patreon, YouTube, and Bigfoot and Brews and Spirits 2 and all things uncomfortable will be found on the Linktree. That will be listed in the show notes for you. As far as Bigfoot and Brews is concerned, we are looking to fill out our makers market that will run in conjunction with the event. So if you're interested in a vendor opportunity, please make sure you get a hold of us at contact.uncomfortable@gmail.com. There will be a linked video in the show notes to tell you a little bit more about that opportunity. Also, we are looking for sponsors for Bigfoot and Brews and Spirits 2. There's a good deal of cost that goes into putting on these kinds of events. And if you would like to help the event financially, we would very much like to hear from you. Again, please reach out to me at contact.uncomfortable@gmail.com for more information. Tonight's guest is Kevin, and we will be getting into his life of strange experiences, including a shapeshifter, and you heard it here first, guys, mushroom people. I cannot wait to get into that one. So, if you're ready, let's get into it. So if you would, please give a warm, uncomfortable welcome to Kevin Sapiel. Kevin?
Good, thank you. Sorry, I jumped the gun on that one.
How are you, sir? Mushroom people.
Yeah, it's
not yet.
Yeah, no,
not yet.
It's interesting. I'll say that.
We've got some other things to talk about before we get into that, but just the mere mention, mushroom people, takes me to a very popular video game and a short TV series that came out recently, The Last of Us. And if they're anything like that, that's horrifying. So I have two pictures in my mind. Don't spoil either one of them. One is the type of creatures that were in The Last of Us, and the other one would be tiny little gnome-looking things in your garden with mushroom caps on their heads. So I'm sure they got to fall somewhere in between. But you've had a number of different weird experiences, everything from shadow people all the way through the mushroom people. So where are we going to start? Shadow people?
Yes, shadow people. So we'll start with the first experience that I can even remember, which is, sometimes when you think about it, because I don't remember a lot of things from before I was 5, and a lot of people don't, but there's a lot of people that randomly do remember, especially when I feel like when it's weird or traumatic, they tend to remember it when they're that young. But
I was fully obsessed with UFOs at the age of 5, and the only reason I can absolutely quantify it is because in 1970 there was a movie that came out that was called Chariots of the Gods.
Mm-hmm.
That movie came out in theaters, and I begged and pleaded with my parents to take me, and ended up convincing my grandma to take me. That's how I know. I was like 5.5 years old, and I was already completely obsessed with UFOs. So
that's amazing. I had a thing.
I don't know that I remember anything prior to that. I seem to have a memory of being in a playpen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my mom used to. This is really going to date me. My mom, when I was a little kid, she used to do a at-home workout in front of the TV to a guy who was probably like one of the first workout guys on TV. That was Jack LaLanne, and he had a I don't know if it was a daily or a weekly program, and she was doing exercises in the living room. I was in the playpen, and we had just gotten a dog. Now, I would not have known what kind of dog it was until I saw pictures of it and heard about it years later, but it was a hunting breed. And my mom had a roast that was on the kitchen countertop that was thawing for dinner. And I remember being in the playpen, and this big honking dog walks into the living room with that chunk of meat in its mouth. And all I can remember was her yelling and screaming at the dog. And then, like, when my dad came home and found out that we didn't have dinner, that next day they took the dog back.
Wow.
So we didn't have the dog anymore. There's like one picture of me riding on the back of the dog, and that is it. He lasted with us for 3 days, I believe it was.
Dang, that's quick, but that's interesting to remember that because like, I think I don't there's not a whole lot that I remember some things mainly because of, like, the home videos, because early '80s, early '90s, that's when the home videos were, like, huge. Everybody had their own, like,
Right.
little, video cameras and at home
Sure.
and whatnot, so there's things that I only remember because I saw them on screen, you know?
Right. At that time, they weren't that little. They were actually like
They were like
shoulder,
yeah.
take up your whole shoulder.
My dad used to hold it up like this. It was pretty funny. But, I mean, well, it's funny now. I mean, back then it was normal, but, like,
Right.
it's pretty comical to think about now, especially, like, there's parts where he was in the mi just looking at himself in the mirror adjusting things that got recorded and stuff. It's
Yeah.
fucking and he's just holding it like this. Um, it's pretty funny, but, um, yeah, no, there's not a whole lot other than, a few things that I remember at that age, and shadow people happens to be one of them. And I remember, so this was like my first ever experience, and I don't know what it was. I was really like into paranormal and sci-fi subjects pretty early on. We watched I remember watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, with Pee Wee Herman as the vampire.
Yeah.
I
That was
I
he
remember.
had the he had the best scene of
Oh
any
my god,
movie.
yeah, his
His
death
his death
scene.
scene. Oh my god, that was hilarious. I still laugh my ass off
Eh,
every time I see it.
yeah, I mean, even as a little kid, I thought it was hilarious, so and
Yeah.
we used to watch it just to watch that part a lot too.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, and Ghostbusters was pretty big at that time when I was young. And, actually, I think the cartoon had just came out because the first movie came out the year that I was born. Um,
God, you're making me feel old.
uh,
Thanks.
you're welcome. Anything I can do to help with that, I'll
Yeah.
gladly do. But, so I think it was the second one that we had actually ended up watching, that night, actually. Me and my sister together watched it, and I had an older brother. I can't remember if he watched it with us or not, but I remember my sister going to her bedroom, and just started flipping out crying. And my mom's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And she's like, "There was a witch in my window." And I remember my dad had just gotten home at this time too. And so I'm associating with it. I'm like, "Oh, she's just saying that because there was a witch in the movie that we just watched," kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so I had to go to bed. My dad was in there kind of just trying to console her, calm her down and stuff like that. And I walked by her room, and my room and my brother's room was all the way to the back of the trailer. And we lived out in the middle of nowhere on the side of a mountain in Vermont and at this time. And I get to the doorway, and I just see these two figures go by the window. And they were darker than the dark, like I couldn't see anything outside the window because it was so dark, but I could see figures just go by the window really quick. And I just like stopped. I was like, and then I turned around and ran back to the living room, and I sat on the bed. I mean, on the couch. And my dad comes out after he's done with my sister, and he's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I'm just sitting on the couch." He's like, "Go to bed." And I was like, "Oh, crap." But nothing else happened that night. And my sister and we were talking, and she's like, "I saw a face." And I was like, "Yeah, but you said," because she doesn't remember saying which. I remember her saying which she might not have said. Is just like one of those things that I just put in my head. But
Yeah.
she does remember the whole thing. She remembers crying about it, and and stuff. And so
Now, was she younger than you or older?
she's younger. She's a year and a half younger than me. But so she had to be like 3 or 4, and I was either 4 or 5 at this time. And so the trailer that we lived in was actually like on this kind of like foundation. It wasn't a foundation for a basement or anything, but it made the trailer sit a lot higher than normal. So in order to be a normal person and to be in the window, you'd have to be well over 6 feet tall to even be able to peer at the windowsill, you know?
Mhm.
So when I saw those figures, I just picture two witches because she said she saw a witch. So all I could think of was there's two witches out there on brooms just flying around the house going, that's all I could picture the whole time. And it scared me. And but I mean nothing ever else ever happened in that house. But I was at night, I would always kinda, like, do this kinda thing as I walked into my room so that I wouldn't look out the window, and and then after that, I've seen shadow people my entire life, from then till now.
Okay, so that kind of kills what I was gonna say. Um, like on the side of a mountain,
Yeah.
basically your trailer was perched on the side of a mountain, wooded all around you.
Yep, there was a farm in front of us, kinda, like, diagonally, and there was a trailer next to us, but it was all woods behind us and all woods to the side. And you we had to go through down a dirt road that was probably about 2 miles of no other houses, it was just woods to get to our trailer, and then there was a farm that kinda sat way back for a little bit further, but and their cows kinda came up sorta close to us, but not super close, um, like, just close enough that we could see the cows kinda grazing and stuff like that out there, but other than that, it was just our 2 houses, and the house the
No chance those dark silhouettes that you saw moving around could have been Bigfoot.
you know, I don't know. Um, just because the height of it alone, yeah, maybe, but, like, I didn't see a distinct any distinct descriptive anything within that silhouette of them. It just looked like 2 kind of figures of something just go by really quick. So, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you if it was a person.
Okay,
I just knew they were dark.
there was something there.
Yeah. And if my sis but you said now that I think of it, my sister saying she saw a face in the window, a Bigfoot
Exactly.
is I think more plausible now that I think of it. It's definitely there's definitely something to that, I think.
I mean, I don't know anything about the area you were in, but from the description, as little as you've said, um, you're you're way out by yourselves,
Mhm.
wooded area, farm area, um, food source. Was there water around you anywhere?
I do believe there was, I wouldn't call it a river, but there was at least a creek a little bit where there was a trail next to our house, that wasn't really maintained, but we could walk down it and there was a little bit of a river. I remember finding it one day and running into this big freaking spider web that had this really like weird, huge black and yellow spider on it. But but yeah, there's water coming down the side of that mountain.
So you got a water source. You've got a farm, which I assume they had animals, right?
Yep.
So you have animals that are in a penned-in structure. Um, you got a food source, and you got a lot of habitation area
Mm.
around. I don't know. Not trying to change your story for you at all, but
No, but
um,
it's definitely intriguing to think about, you know what I mean? Like, I've never even considered that as being because my sister because from my perspective, like, what I remember is my sister saying a witch, and my sister's like, I saw a face." Like, I couldn't tell you if it was a witch. She's like, "Maybe I just said witch because I was associating it with Ghostbusters because there was a witch." And I saw a
yeah.
face, and so maybe I just said witch, and she's like, "But it was definitely a face that looked like it was pressed up against the window when I walked in my bedroom," and I was like,
See, and that story takes me straight back to one of my early episodes with a gentleman from Michigan up north around the Traverse City area. When he was a kid, um, there was a woman with long flowing hair uh, looking in the window.
"Wow."
Um, So,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's super intriguing. I never even considered the possibility of it being a Bigfoot Bigfoot, but now that you say that it's more I don't know. M- maybe a little bit of both because I don't know because there's so many stories out there that have like these paranormal things that coincide with Bigfoot. When you see a Bigfoot, all of a sudden like these weird things are also happening. So
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of
maybe
people talk about that. A lot of people talk about it.
yeah, maybe there's something to that.
All right. Sorry. Didn't mean to derail you.
It's totally fine.
Go on with your experiences.
Ah. So I think shortly after that, we moved in with my grandparents in Maine, and my dad and my mom were trying to find a new house, so we were living there for a brief amount of time. And I remember going down to the basement to get my uncle or my grandfather like a tool or something that they kept in the basement. And every time I'd go in the basement, I'd see these figures either just standing in the corner, sitting underneath the stairs, or like leaning up against the lolly columns, kind of like this. But there was no features to them, like they just looked like a shadow. Um, and they didn't move; they just stood there. And I remember every time I would go down there to get something for my grandfather, I would sing, thinking like they're not gonna hurt me if I'm singing. Like if I serenade them, they're not gonna touch me, you know what I mean? So I'd
Yeah.
hum or I'd sing and I'd be like,
The
"Don't hurt."
mind of a child.
Yeah, right. Um, and so I saw them all the time. Then we moved out and then we moved back in after my parents divorced and whatnot. And my older brother ended up getting a room down there, and his part where his bedroom in the basement was, they finished and they made it into a livable space, and the rest of it wasn't finished. And I hated the basement, absolutely hated the basement, but my brother's room was the only place we were allowed to play video games. So I had to play video games when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. So I would brave seeing these figures every day just to go play video games. And I saw them pretty consistently almost every day, at least one. Um, again, they, as a child, I was scared, obviously, but they never did anything. Um,
Okay, let me stop you there. So, at your grandparents' house,
yeah.
you said they never moved.
Mhm.
Every time you saw them, were they in the exact same position?
Yep. Well, they were in different places all the time,
Okay, okay.
but
But you never saw them move. You never saw an arm or anything like reach out, or
no,
they were always just static.
yeah, yeah. It was almost like they were frozen kind of thing. But
Okay,
if I got really close to them, it would like dissipate. It's kind of like what's happening in my house now, in the hallway. Like if I approach them, they kind of like dissipate. Like they'll just like disappear. But if I stay
really?
where I am, they'll stay right there. Unless, like, in my house, if I say, "Hey, you're not welcome, you need to leave," they'll go. But and sometimes too, when would go down into the basement, I would see something move out of the corner of my eye, and I would just associate it with one of them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
something darted into the darker part of the basement or the back room there where my grandfather kept all of his stuff, that sometimes I had to go and retrieve something for him, and it scared the crap out of me because it was the darkest part of the basement, and I was like, "I don't know where these things are because it's all shadows now."
yeah.
But
So when you moved to the other house and your brother's bedroom was in the basement, and you continued to see them, were you seeing the same shapes?
yeah, yeah, just
So in your mind, were they the same entities that you were seeing at your grandparents, or
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, because it's the same house. Um,
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you stayed there for a while and then you moved to a different place, and that's where your brother.
yeah.
Okay,
No, I the way
my
I
fault.
said it got I can see where you could have gotten confused because I was like, "And then we moved out, and then we moved back in."
Okay, all right.
But yeah, no, they were always mostly in the same spots. The ones that were especially creepy were the ones that would lean up against the lolly columns because they weren't always there. Because I saw that one less, and there's a lolly column right next to my brother's, bedroom, and then because you got the cross beam for to support the upstairs, and then there was one towards the backside, and as I'm walking from the bottom of the stairs across to my brother's, door, it would just be like I would look at the lolly column, it wouldn't be there, but as I would cross, it would just be, like, on the other side, just kinda, like, with it looking like I couldn't see arms, but from the, like, the silhouette of it, it kinda just looked like it was like this, leaned up against the lolly column. And I was just like, and as soon as I would see it, I would just start walking a little bit faster, looking out of the corner of my eye, making sure it wasn't coming near me, and then I would get into inside. A lot of times, too, when I would rush and I would slam my brother's door, he'd be like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. There's something out there." And he's like, "There's nothing out there. Shut up." And for him,
Okay, so he never saw them.
as far as I know, he never saw them. My sister said there was definitely some weird stuff that happened in that house too, and she, there's so this is one of her favorite stories to tell because it was right around this time as well. We were getting ready for school one morning and she saw a black mass. We're walking down the hall and she saw this black mass go from the kitchen into the living room. So the hallway connects into the kitchen. So you can't see into the living room. So she saw this black mass go right through the doorway into the living room, and she screamed, dropped her backpack, and started running down the hall. And I was right behind her, and I just screamed, and I ran too, and I didn't see anything. And we run to the back of the hallway to my mother's room, and my mother's like, "What the hell is going on? What are you doing?" And my sister's trying to explain, and she can't really, like, she's just like hysterical. And she's like, all right, calm down. What? And she looks at me and she goes, what happened? And I go, I have no idea. She screamed and ran, so I did. And my sister's like, this she goes, if anybody that I know is to survive a horror movie, it would be Kevin because he didn't ask any questions, he just dropped everything and ran.
Just ran like hell.
So, yeah, so my sister also saw, shadow figures, and she saw some things, in that house as well, and, um, my me and my sister are pretty close. We were pretty close back then. Um, some things happened to her, that, I could see why now that I know the whole story and stuff, like, why she became a little bit more distant, but, we're pretty close now. And we talk about this stuff. She actually, you know, co-hosted with me for a little bit as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I kind of
So,
want to bring her back.
full disclosure, Kevin is the host of Tell Everybody.
Where the Weird Ones Are podcast.
and where the weird ones are, where got to edit that, and where the weird ones are is a pretty much on topic with what you would expect to hear here on Uncomfortable. He does delve into conspiracy at some point, but a lot of high strangeness, a lot of weird stuff.
Mhm.
um, Kevin, while we're at it, why don't you give everybody an opportunity to hear where they can find you and
Absolutely.
where they can listen to your show?
So, my socials are where underscore the weird ones are on Instagram, where the weird ones are on Facebook. I'm on Discord. Um, What else am I on? I'm on Threads. I don't even, like, pay attention to that, but sometimes I do. It's a work in progress because it's a new thing, and I just feel like they keep coming up with these new social media outlets, and I'm just like, I can't keep up with them. and I'm still trying to figure out Discord. But for the show, it's Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Um, I was on Rumble for a little bit, but with all the other trying to put everything on the other platforms, it
Hmm.
it's gets a little tedious sometimes. So
It does, doesn't it?
yeah, I forgot about it for a little bit, and then I was just like, "Oh, you know what? Might as well just stop if, it's already been, like, X amount of episodes. I'm not just gonna be like, 'Oh, surprise!'" Um, but I also have
So
a
you do a video on YouTube as well?
Yep, yeah, yeah, and unless the guest asks for anonymity, to be anonymous.
Anonymity.
Yeah, that word. I won't do, I won't do a video for them. So far it's only been one that asked not to be on video. Everybody else has been pretty open. So, but I'm not opposed to it. I didn't, your privacy is, you know, comes first with
Sure.
everything,
Absolutely.
you know. So,
You got to make people comfortable to get them to talk about uncomfortable things.
absolutely.
You see what I did
I
there?
did. I did. It was very good. I liked it. But yeah, yeah. So I think That's that's all the places. I have a website too, where the weird ones are podcast.com. But I have a little blog on there. Eventually I'm going to put videos on there just in case YouTube wants to shut my channel down, which they've kicked one of my episodes off so far. So fingers
What
crossed.
was it about? What was
Um
it about?
we were talking about chakras, crystals, and then she ended up talking about the jib jab a little bit.
There
Um,
you go.
yeah,
Got to
so
stay away from that.
absolutely, and she was just she's like, "Oh, I read this article that said this and this and this," and she wasn't like, "This is factual, actual happening," kinda thing or anything like that, but, they don't want you talking about anything that is goes against the narrative, so
Yep.
they'll kick you real quick.
Yep. I've even found that oddly enough, I've even found that the case with some people that I follow because I do the carnivore diet.
Yep,
And if they go too far off of the rails as far as talking, not so much about the diet, but talking about how we've been deceived by what are nutritional guidelines that have been set up by the powers that be. If they get too far into that, they get a lot of their stuff taken down, and that's it's kind of shady.
very shady, it's very shady. I mean, processed foods alone I mean, in America alone, we don't have enough regulations on food for sure. Like, there's
Right.
so much chemicals and stuff that get passed through, and believe it or not, like, dairy's not that great for you even though it's on the table as, one of the best things for you. Um,
Hmm.
in fact, milk alone, which is it's just, it's interesting because studies, like actual studies, scientific studies have shown that milk has cancer-causing properties, but, when I talk about it, everybody's like, "Oh, everything causes cancer." Well, why don't we do something where nothing causes cancer, because everything that causes cancer has been, human manufactured, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
So maybe we should do something about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird and I want, everybody to live happy and healthy, but, you know.
Well, I can say unequivocally that the first of this month, May 1st, was 6 months of me um, not eating sugar, not drinking pop, not eating any processed foods.
Mhm.
And in 6 months, to the day, I started November 1st, and on May 1st, I hit the 70-pound mark of having lost 70 pounds.
Wow.
The arthritis in my hands are gone. The arthritis in my knees are gone. The secondary back pain and inflammation that I had because of an injury in my back are gone. Um, I feel borderline superhuman.
Wow, dude, that's awesome. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I mean, there's so much there's so many properties of that benefit us through meat. Like steak or well,
Exactly.
just you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
natural creatine, there's oh man, there's so much protein and just a
It,
little
it's the
sliver of steak,
it's the
man.
most nutritious food you can eat.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, don't don't burn it. Don't burn it. You want to keep it a little red because that's
Right.
that's where first of all it tastes so
Right.
much better than that. So I don't understand people that like their steaks or burgers
I
well
don't either.
done.
I never
But
have.
um,
And then the other thing is oxalates. Oxalates
mm,
are a compound that really affect the human body in a negative aspect.
yep.
And by eliminating vegetables entirely, fruit, I mean, I literally am meat, butter, salt, water, eggs, um, some cheese, bacon.
Perfect.
That's it. And
Perfect.
I'm, as the recording of this, I'm 3 days away from going to the doctor to have my panels done, my blood work done.
Yeah,
Um,
I bet you your testosterone is, pretty high too.
Dude, you have no idea. I'm going to be 59 next month.
Mm.
My testosterone, and we don't have to get into how I can tell, but my testosterone is got to be through the roof.
Yeah, perfect.
It is insane. It's like being 18 again.
Nice.
It is literally, everybody that does anything for themselves to better themselves, you know, coin the phrase, oh, it's been life changing. Um, Aside from the weight loss,
Mhm.
the way I feel physically, the mental clarity that I have, unreal, unreal difference from 6 months ago.
Dude, that's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear.
So
I've been think
not to get on a soapbox, but somehow we got there.
Yeah, no, it happens sometimes when you have a regular conversation about things.
Right.
You veer off here and there. I think the only thing that I have that I intake processed is my beer, you know?
Okay.
Um, that's pretty
I
much
do kind of miss beer once in a while,
yeah.
but
I've been thinking about getting on the carnivore diet, which would benefit me a lot as well. But I do like my fruits and veggies, so
yeah.
I haven't gotten on the train yet, but I'm probably gonna at some point, just because I hear so many other people talk about it and like the benefits. I think what's his name, Jordan Peterson's daughter has been
Yeah.
on the carnivore
Michaela.
diet, yeah, for like years now, and she talks
Yeah.
about it, all the benefits that it's done for her.
Yeah. She literally healed herself of a ton of different things that doctors were not able to take care of for her.
Right.
Um, but the last thing I'll say on this process stuff is there's a energy drink out that's called Celsius,
Yep.
and it is, it was tasty. I tried it. Um, didn't drink a lot of it. Had it a couple of times. My son was drinking it. Then my daughter works in the medical field, and she said she seen an article where it was absolutely horrible for you, and so we both listened to her. We stopped drinking it.
Yeah.
But very recently, I saw a gentleman talking about one of the additives that they put into Celsius drinks, and believe it or not, it is literally the foam from waste sewage plants. The foam that develops on the top of the water where the human waste is treated
Mhm.
is removed and then processed and then used as a part of these energy drinks. Celsius in particular, I know for sure.
And it's
Um,
at a healthy level, and I'm
at a
just
hell,
like, "What
yeah,
in the world would cause that to be any way at all healthy for a human to intake?" You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
ridiculous. I saw the same thing, and you can look it up. You can look up the ingredient list, and for everybody listening, you can look right on the can,
yeah.
you can look up all the ingredients, and you can also look up everything that buy from the store that is processed. If you go
Mhm.
through the ingredient list and you, just look up pros and cons or side effects and stuff like that on each
Well,
ingredient.
the interesting thing to do is when you find some of these chemicals that are in your cereal or whatever it is
Yep.
that you can't even pronounce. When you look that up, when you Google it
Mhm.
and say and ask Google to query alternative uses for,
Yep.
then you'll find out that it's used in pesticides, it's used in this, it's used in that, it's used in a bunch of things that don't even come close to being what we should consume. So,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
anyway, that's my soapbox. So
That was a good
let's
soapbox, Eric.
let's get back to where the weird ones are. Uh,
Absolutely.
the weird stories in particular.
Absolutely. So I guess basically to go from there, the next experience, not only the shadow people in my grandparents' basement. So we're still living with my grandparents at this point, and I was 9 years old. I decided, to try and take my own life, and I didn't succeed. Obviously, I'm here. Um, so 2 weeks after I did that, I was on the swing set in the backyard, and I see something out of the corner of my eye, so I just kinda, like, turned my head, and there was a full body apparition, like, I could see through him and everything, and his face was distorted and all wispy, so I couldn't really, like, make out any facial features, but I could tell he was sitting there on the other swing in, like, a work suit, like, in a suit and tie, but it was, like, not dressy, it was just, like, for work kinda thing, like he worked at an office or something.
So he looked like an adult.
Yes, yeah, and I say that he was an old man, because of that, and I think just because, I was a child at the time, I just associated him with an old guy, and his voice, I guess, maybe sounded old because he did talk to me, and I stared at him, and I had, like, this, like I was squeezing the shit out of the chains of my swing, and he's like,
How close was he?
he was, like, a foot or 2, like, I think there was, like how actually, they might still do it this way, where there's, like, a swing, and then there's, like, a little thing that you, like, kinda, like, pull on, there's a bar that you
Yeah,
swing on, and then there's another swing, like, that's how far he was, so I would say, like, 2 or 3 feet away from me, and
Jesus.
yeah, and,
And he spoke to you?
yeah, he did. So he had something in his hands, and I couldn't tell what it was because I wasn't, like, actually paying attention, but I remember it being stringy, and it was either what I associated it with was either a bowl of noodles, like he was eating noodles, or he was, like, knitting something with, like, yarn, like, that's all, like, that's the only thing that I could and it doesn't add or take away anything from the story, it's just weird. So I'm staring at him, and he goes, "Be patient," and I'm like, "About what?" And he goes, "You'll know." And then I turn my head and I stare at the ground for what seemed like forever, and it was probably only like a couple seconds, maybe even a minute. And I was like it was almost like paralysis where I just wanted to get up with every fiber of my being. I wanted to get up and just run inside, and I just could not make myself move. And then all of a sudden, I finally was like, turned my head and he wasn't there. And I was like, and I was able to move again. And I got up and I didn't run, but I fast walked inside. And then I just like, I kept periodically peeking out from the curtain in the kitchen just to look outside at the swing set, and I'd just be like, "Oh, he's not there. Oh, no, he's not there." But it was it was a weird at the time, I was just like, "What the hell?" But now looking back on it as an adult, I think that there was something to it, like, you know, 2 weeks prior, me trying to do that, and I ended up trying again at 13, and then I thought about it at 30. And I really think so around the time when I was 30, I was thought about this experience, and I was like, I think that it was just like a, I don't know, like not an angel, not God specifically, but maybe something that along those lines that was just like, hey man, you're gonna get through it. Life gets better. You just gotta apply yourself. The storm can only last for so long. It's like a light there's a light at the end of the tunnel, kinda
Yeah.
thing, basically is what I think he was trying to say, but it was, like, super cryptic, but at the time, I was like, maybe if I'm patient, I can get some candy from my mom, or my mom will let me play video games or something like that kinda thing." But as throughout my life, the more I always, like, thought about this, experience looking back on things, and I was like, "Maybe I just need to be more patient." So, like, in my late 20s to now, I started thinking about it whenever I get, like, really frustrated or upset. I'm just like, "Oh, maybe I just like I was like, I just need to be patient. I just need to be patient." And it's become, like, my mantra for my life now. Like, just be patient and things will work out.
Yeah. Is there any chance that that guy could have been uh, a, a distant relative, like a great grandparent, or
Uh, I mean, it's possible. If I mean, I wish he had a face, because then I could definitely tell you for sure. Um, I
so
didn't
when he
I
spoke,
didn't recognize.
did it come out of his mouth or did you just hear it in your head?
You know you know what? I never thought definitely, well, I feel like I heard it, like, out loud, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because his face was so distorted, I couldn't see, like, a mouth moving or anything. But it sounded like he, like, spoke literally, and it wasn't, like, telepathically or anything. So,
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure he spoke out loud. Um,
I just wonder if that was like a family member that had passed
yeah.
that
I will
that
say that my uncle did pass, but he didn't have a job that had him in a suit, but maybe he was buried in a suit. I wasn't allowed to go to his funeral, 'cause I think I was 7 when he died. It was, like, right before my parents split, and so at this time, it would have been 3 years since he died, and I wasn't allowed to go to his funeral because he was, like, mangled. So it was his 25th birthday, and he was drunk, he left the bar, and he struck a tree
oh my
with
word.
his truck. So, his face was too messed up for the children to be present
Yeah.
for it.
Jesus.
So, I mean, I don't know if he was buried in a suit, but maybe it could have been him. I know he had issues. He was an alcohol I mean, he ended up being an alcoholic. So,
So okay, hang on a second now. So you couldn't see his face because it was so distorted. And you weren't allowed to go to the funeral because his face was so mangled up.
man, yeah, 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 man, I've told this story so many times, and I'd never even, like, put that together. Um, I don't think anybody's
Well,
ever
that's what you get when you come to uncomfortable.
I don't think anybody's ever asked me, like, if it was a relative or not. Um, but yeah, man, that's a good possibility. The fact that his face was distorted, and, my uncle, when he
maybe
died, his
that
face
maybe
was
that
messed
was
up.
maybe that was the clue. Maybe that was his way of letting you know who it was.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. You wanna hear something even more interesting?
Of course.
Um, my son was born on his birthday,
Really?
and my uncle's birthday is the day after mine, so my son was born the day after my birthday. So,
Hmm.
I almost named him after my uncle because of that,
Really?
but
Does your
my
how old's your son?
he's 15 now.
Is he would you consider him to be an old soul?
A little bit, yeah, he's, actually just found God randomly. I never put it in his head or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I talked to him about spiritual things and stuff, and he actually went to his first ever like cryptid conference. He came with
Oh,
me
yeah.
recently, and he loves it. But yeah, he's just recently started talking about God and stuff, and he bought a little necklace that has a cross on it that says "God loves you" or something like that on it.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, he's the what he was like the easiest baby. um, fuck, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
Um, he was a super easy baby. Um, and he's just I don't know. He surprises me all the time. There there was almost like no disciplining him because he just I don't know. He was great, and he still is.
Yeah.
So I would say
Oh, you could do a lot worse.
yeah, I guess, yeah, I would say I would consider him an old soul. He likes a lot of old things. When he was younger, he loved Queen and, what the hell's his name? I keep wanting to say Bon Jovi, but I know it's not Bon Jovi. David Bowie, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
He loved Queen and David Bowie when he was little.
Good good taste in music.
Yeah, and I And that was the era my uncle and my dad grew up in, so those were their bands, The Queen, David
Yeah.
Bowie, Guns N' Roses and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
the more I think about it, the more things are coming, and I'm just like, "You know what? Maybe there's something to that." It's, not that my uncle's reincarnated in my son, but
Right. Not what I was insinuating at
right,
all, but
right. Um, but yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know.
has he ever had any kind of um, odd experiences that he's told you about?
He's told me about a couple things that happened in his bedroom here in this house, but I don't think he because when he told me about this experience, I was like, "Have you ever had anything like before?" And he was like, "No, it wasn't until like this house." And I almost wonder because it scared him. It was just like I think he
Mhm.
saw a figure in his room or something like that. And then there was another day that he came up to his bedroom and he had a stuffed animal that he like because he doesn't really care about stuffed animals, but he keeps them because, nostalgia.
Yeah.
And one of them was just sitting perfectly in the middle of his bed when he got into his room, and he was just like he called me, and he's like, Dad," and, I come up, and, my stuffed animal's sitting in the middle of my bed," and I looked at it, and I was like, "Did you put it there?" He goes, "No." He's like, "I just got in here." And I was like, "Are you pulling my leg? Like, are you doing this on like trying to like fool me or something like that?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "I came in here, it was sitting like that." He goes, "I didn't put it there." And I mean, my dog was sitting on the bed, but he's like, it was off in the corner of his bed because I don't know, he likes to have them around his head and when he goes to bed for some reason.
Yeah.
Not that it's weird, but I mean, it's just makes him comfortable. But he's like, "It
Mhm.
was off in the corner." He goes, "The only thing that I can think of is that maybe Rizzo moved it," but he goes, "But to be sitting perfectly in the center of the bed is really weird." And I was like, "That is weird." He goes, and I go, "Maybe that is something." And I almost wonder because he's starting to develop like a faith in God. I almost
Right.
wonder if
Yeah.
something's just trying to fuck with him to, maybe pull him away or manipulate him in some kind of way.
Mhm.
Because all this started pretty much happening recently, when he started to, think about God and whatnot. So,
What's this is a deep question, and if you don't want to answer it, that's fine.
mhm.
But I'm going to ask it. Um, like your faith and the faith of everyone else in the house. Um, just judging by how you said that your son found God and has developed an interest in that. Um, I kind of get the feeling that maybe you're not a very spiritual household.
So, I am, but
Okay.
I've never, opposed my views or opinions on my children because I'd prefer them to develop their own. But if they
Mhm.
ask me questions, I'll say, "This is what I believe." Um, so they've always known that I believe in something bigger and greater than myself.
Yeah.
And they always known that I believe in a spiritual realm. If they ask, I tell them, and they know about my podcast, that my son actually listens to my podcast, which I think is another reason why he may have started to turn to faith, to believing in God, because a lot, recently, especially from friends that I've made through the podcast and everything, like I think that I might be myself might be becoming Christian. Like, I'm starting to believe as well, you know what I mean? Um,
Mhm.
not that I never did. I feel it more stronger, and, I prayed for the very first time in my life, um, just this weekend, with the, coming of my newest child, my daughter.
Again, so let's wish him, Kevin and his family, congratulations, because they just had a baby that was potentially going to interrupt the recording of this episode, but he came on Friday, and that's
Yeah.
what a great time, man!
Yeah, it was
What a great time.
it was beautiful. It it was looking like it was becoming complicated. Her heart rate kept dropping and stuff while she was in labor. And they were very concerned for not like super concerned to the point where it was like an emergency, but they were like, it's kind of weird that the baby's heart rate keeps dropping randomly. And they would, change her position and stuff like that. And um, then they started talking about cesarean, and then she started crying, and then I started crying, and then I went to the bathroom and I just stood in the mirror and I just had a praying session for the very first time. Like everything I was just like, please everything come out all right. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And um and it did. And I'm not saying that it was because of prayer, but I just happened to pray and everything turned out to be all right. And what happened was, so we did ended up doing the C-section, um, and so her umbilical cord was there was a knot in her umbilical cord. So every time she would at a certain position, they think that it was blocking. She would be laying on the umbilical cord and tightening that knot to where she wasn't getting whatever she needed, and it was causing
right.
her heart rate to drop a little bit. So, but thankfully, she came out, she's healthy, and, she looks exactly like my daughter, which
That's
who
awesome.
looks exactly like me, and I apologize to my daughter all the time. I'm like, "I'm so sorry." She's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "'Cause
You
you
poor
look
you
exactly
poor
like
thing.
me." Um, but yeah.
So you alluded earlier, things going on in the house that you're in currently, and then
Mhm.
with your son's stuffed animal showing up in the middle of the bed. What kind of things are you dealing with there?
So s Alright. Nothing super negative. There's been one experience that scared the shit out of me, but everything has been kinda, like, just plain. So, the shadow figures in the hallway. The studio used to be my bedroom, and I ended up moving my bedroom downstairs to where the studio used to be, and I moved the studio up here just because this space is a little bit smaller and I felt like I needed a bigger space for my bedroom. Um, Especially with the baby and whatnot. But anyway, so I would sleep used to sleep in here. I always leave my bedroom door open, and I would just see them, and it'd be like peeking in the doorway, or they'd be in the back of the hallway in the corner, just standing there, or they'd be standing in my son's doorway, um, or sitting on the floor, which was the weirdest thing. But they never did it. Again, they never did anything. They never moved until I walked towards them. Um, the very first like month that I was living here, I was laying in bed. Nobody was home, and it was just me and my dog, and my dog's head was resting on my leg, and I was like on my back. I mean, on my belly, with just like my leg kind of up and bent, and that's where her head was. So I was looking at her, and the doorway was behind me, and she just kind of like lifts her head like she was looking at somebody and that was entering the room. And I looked at her and I was like, "What the hell?" Because I had just like woken up, and then she puts her head down like, "Oh, everything's all right." And then as soon as her head was down, I felt a weight on my bed right near my feet, like somebody had just sat down next to my feet, and I was just like, "What the hell was that?" So I sat
Really?
there for a minute, and then I got, like, this sensation that it was another uncle who had just recently passed at that times, 'cause I had another uncle that passed away in 2019, and, like, he's like the epitome of what a man should be, in my opinion. Um, I looked up to him so much. He was, a great person and stuff like that. And I had just gone through like this horrible breakup. Um, she broke me like really bad to the point where I was like, I'm gonna just gonna be single for the rest of my life because I don't want to deal with that shit ever again.
Yeah.
Um, And I just feel like at that time, like he was there to be like, everything's gonna be all right, kind of thing. If it was him, again, I don't know because I didn't see anything. I just got this like weird like sensation, and I like envisioned his face just looking at me, smiling at me, and just be like, "Hey, bud," like he used to every time he ever saw me. Um, and then, yeah, and then everything was all right, and I turned around, nothing was there. I never felt the weight lift, and, I looked at that part of the bed, and it wasn't nothing was sitting there, but it was really weird. Um, and, they say animals can see the other realm and stuff, so,
Hmm.
um, and then and so there was that, there's the shadow figures. And then the scariest thing and the last thing that has really happened, I haven't seen shadow figures recently in the past couple months. I actually had a woman on, I think you know her, JJ Rose, and she did a clearing, and ever since she has been here in my house, there hasn't
Yeah.
been, and now she's not here physically, she's here spiritually.
Right.
She Ever
Right.
since she's been here, there hasn't been anything going on, which I'm extremely grateful to her for. Uh, but so again, I was in this room, um, and my girlfriend now, we were just starting to see each other, and she had just left my house, and I was laying in my bed, and I wake up. I just fallen asleep, and I wake up to my name. So I was like Kevin, and and I thought she had came back. And so I just kinda lift my head and I see this shadow figure come into my room, and this is completely different from all the other shadow figures because I could see more features. There was an hourglass figure, it was a woman, so I could see, the curves and everything, and she had long
Right.
flowing hair, but she was completely black. And she came into my room. She wasn't super fast, but she was moving pretty good, and I had that paralysis where I couldn't move, and my heart started pounding, and the best way I could describe the way that she moved was like C3PO. It was just like very robotic, like, "Oh." like coming in, and I was just like, "Oh my
How odd.
god." And I saw my phone out of the corner of my eye, so and my hands like cuz I was kind of like laid sprawled out. Um and I start wiggling my fingers trying to inch my hand towards my phone, and she's still coming, and I'm looking at her and then darting to the side to see my phone, see how close my hand is getting to my phone, and it's not almost not moving at all. And just as she gets to the foot of my bed, it kind of like breaks. And I grab my phone and I sit up at the same time and light up my room with my phone, and there's nothing there. And I'm sweating and I'm breathing heavily. And I was like, holy shit. Like I thought I was gonna die just now because she was just about to climb onto my bed when I lit up my room with my phone. And that scared the crap out of me. That's so there's only been like two incidences that I've had that scared the crap out of me, and that was one of them. And I don't ever wanna experience that again, and, um, I just it was strange.
Was she menacing? I mean,
Yes.
were you just freaking out because she didn't belong there and you knew something funky was going on, or was there a menacing feel to
The way
her being there?
the way that she was moving when she was coming towards me was definitely menacing. It was just like, I just I it's hard to describe, but she's, kinda like it was freaky, and I think the way that she was moving was what actually really scared me, and the fact that
Yeah,
she was coming towards me at a decent pace, um, was also scary because, again, I've never actually seen a shadow figure move, so I saw that, and I started telling people immediately the next morning. I was like, "Oh my god, you would never guess what happened to me," and, I was like, "That wasn't a shadow figure, that was something disguising itself as a shadow figure." Like, there's something that wanted me to think that it was a shadow figure for whatever reason, I don't know. But JJ again, she came after that had happened, and, she said she found something cowering in the corner, and then she removed it, and I haven't seen absolutely nothing since, and my kids haven't reported anything, so fingers crossed.
JJ is great, man. She's the real deal.
She really is, she is, and she's super nice, which
Yeah,
is
she is
which is
very
awesome.
lovely person.
Mhm. I would agree 110%. I will say though, there was one other incident that happened. I was sitting down to record with somebody and somebody knocked on my door, and I looked down at my dog 'cause she was in the studio at the time. I was like, "Was that your tail or somebody at the door?" And I just said, "Come in." Nobody comes in, and it's only me and my dog again here that night, and I got up and I opened the door and nobody's there. I'm just like, "That's weird." And then I just kinda, like, just in case, like, somebody was trying to mess with me, um, or if it was a ghost, I just jumped out and, like, karate chopped the space in the side of the hallway. I'm just like, "Yeah!" 'Cause everybody knows ghosts they die when you karate chop them. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
just
they do.
go away.
They die again.
Yeah. So that's what I did, like, and I'm not even kidding, like, I just was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Alright, there's nothing here, I don't know what's happening."
That's
Maybe
hilarious.
it's just my imagination. Again, it could have been my dog's tail, but it didn't like, I looked at her and she was kinda, like, sleeping a little bit, so I don't know if it was or wasn't, but it was definitely a knock of some kind, and it sounded like it was coming from my door.
She didn't react to the sound?
No, she didn't, no.
Would
So
she normally react to a sound like that?
to the especially a door, yeah, she would've. So, maybe it was maybe it was her tail, but it definitely freaked me out for a quick second. I was like, "Huh? What? Come in." "Oh, nope, you're not coming in? Alright, I'll open the door for you." But
The paranormal karate ass kicker. that's a great. God, I can just picture that in my head.
Yeah. I've done that a few times. I did it a lot when I was a kid too. When I was scared to go to the bathroom or something, I definitely jumped out like that when I was a kid a lot. So it was a lot of karate chopping and just in case something was there, and singing because, if you say again, if you serenade them, they're not gonna hurt you.
Yeah. You need to write a book about this stuff. Ways to keep ghosts and shadow people from messing with you.
Yeah,
I think these are some very not very well known techniques that you've developed.
they've worked for me. Maybe they'll work for you.
It could save the lives of many paranormal investigators.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. Um, but I will tell you, um, the mushroom people story now if you're ready for that.
Yeah, yeah, we gotta do that. This is the you gotta wow me with this because my brain's been going everywhere with the idea of this.
All right, so when I was a kid, I wore glasses. And so this was right after, well, not right after, but a year after I saw the apparition on the swing set. So I was still living with my grandparents, and my sister and I, we lived on my grandparents lived on a cul-de-sac. My sister and I would ride our bikes around, and pretend that we were hunting monsters or aliens and whatnot. And this particular day, there happened to be like a.
Did you? I gotta know. Did you have like a karate type dismount from your bike when you encountered the monsters?
Yeah, I did,
Okay, all right,
especially when there was snow, because we still rode our bikes even when there was snow, and I know how dangerous that is because of ice, but we did it anyway, and I would definitely dismount my bike and jump into the freaking, snow banks doing karate chops and kicks and stuff like that, and my sister was like, "What are you doing?" I was just like, "You never know, you just
are
stay
you
ready."
trained in are you trained in martial arts?
No, I'm no well, a little bit. I did it when I was a kid, and then I started it again, when I was 18. I actually did amateur cage fighting for a little bit before my son was born. Um, so they were trying to teach me, you know, some
Yeah,
jujitsu with wrestling and the paying them and then the traveling and stuff like that for the fights got way too expensive, and I was just like, "You guys are, like, throwing too much at me, and I'm paying you a lot, and I'm not retaining any of this stuff." So,
right.
um, but I
All
did
right, back to the mushroom people.
yeah.
Sorry, I just had to know.
Yeah, no, it's alright. So, there happened to be just a light dusting of snow this particular day, and for whatever reason, we needed to hurry up and we could only stay out for a little bit. So I was like, "Let's go hunt monsters." And my sister's like, "Yeah." Um, so we go outside, we're riding our bikes around, and we see these squirrel tracks in the snow, and it's just like the snow was just like a sheet of paper, basically. That's how much snow there was. And so we start walking into the woods or following these squirrel tracks because the squirrel tracks, they look like three things because their two back feet or their two front feet are like almost together. So it looks like, something is, it's a monster footprint. Um, so we're following it and we come to this creek, and this creek I used to, catch frogs in all the time and stuff when it was nicer out. And all of a sudden, just this like blue tint covered my eyes. And I was just like, "What the hell?" And then, like a flip of the switch, there's no snow, nothing, and like 10, maybe 15 feet ahead of me is this little village of mushroom people, and they're stoking a fire. They're just like throwing these like little twigs into a fire, and they're not like they don't look like people, and they don't look like they had, like, no people features. They were just mushrooms that were moving around like people. So they were, like, 3 inches tall, like a mushroom popping out of the ground, but they had arms. They didn't have faces, so, like, they weren't like Toad from Mario or anything like that. And they were just moving around. They had, like, they it looked like little huts made out of mushrooms as well, and, like, some of them went up around the trees and stuff, and they're throwing sticks into this big fire. Well, big to them, but it was in the center of like all their little huts and stuff. And I'm looking at it and I was just like, what is happening? And then I get a tap on my head, and my head just kind of like lunges forward and my glasses fall off my face, and I feel something on my shoulder, and I look at it and it's a mushroom on my shoulder, and telepathically it spoke to me and he goes, You know, you don't need those." And I was like, "My glasses?" He's like, "Yeah." And then and I'm staring at it like this and just like bam, all of a sudden my sister's standing there and I turn my head. I don't see mushroom people or anything. It's just all snow in a regular landscape as it was before. And I'm staring at my sister. She's like, "You all right?" And I was like, my glass, I dropped my glasses." So I get down on my hands and knees and I'm just like kind of like looking for them. Like, did it fall? Did it get under some leaves or whatever? And my sister comes over, she's like, "Where are they? Where are they?" And you just hear crunch. And we're like, "Oh, oh no." So like instantly my mind went from I gotta tell my sister this what just happened to me to my glasses are broken and I need them fixed. So I pick them up and I run home and I tell my mom.
So she did actually step on your glasses and not one of the mushroom houses, right?
Right, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I run home and I tell my mom, and my mom's like, "You have an appointment in like 2 weeks or so, so I'm not gonna get you a new pair in case your prescription, needs to be upped or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, shit." So now I have to go a couple weeks without glasses at all. Um, so then we get to the doctor's appointment, and they're testing my eyes or whatnot, and the doctor comes in after they did the tests and stuff like that, and he sits down and he's reading over the charts and stuff. And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, your eyes are pretty good." He goes, "Yeah, I don't think you need glasses." And my mom's like, "What?" And I was just like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Maybe, wear them for, reading, writing, and watching TV or whatever." But he goes, "Yeah, you don't really need glasses anymore." And it was just like mind blowing. So ever since then, I haven't worn glasses, and my vision has been, pretty good. Which back then it wasn't that great. So
So this area that you were at
yeah.
where you saw the mushroom people,
Hmm.
is that a place that you frequented even in good weather?
Yes. Yep. I went.
Did you ever come across anything that would have been a circle, like on the ground with, like maybe oddly placed rocks in a circle or stones or
Not that I can recall. I never. I don't think I've ever actually noticed. Um, but like the little creek ran right through it. Kind of, like, so the creek would go, and then when I saw it, I remember I saw it just on the other side of the creek. So I was, like, right in front of the creek, and it was just on the other side. Um, but, every time I've ever been out there, I just don't think I paid attention enough to, my surroundings to really say eh, that for a
I'm almost
fact.
wondering if that what you experienced was something very much akin to the Fae.
Yeah, that's,
I was wondering if you had ever seen anything like a fairy circle
yeah,
or
no,
fairy ring.
not that I can recall, not out there. I've seen some
Were
weird.
they aware of you?
Yeah,
Like when you saw them, were they aware of you?
the ones in the village, I wanna say some of them stopped and looked at me, but I can't remember if that's actually true. Um, but when I saw the only one that acknowledged me was the one that landed on me, and I don't know where it came from. Maybe it dropped from a tree, or I don't know. Um, but I think that's what tapped me on the head and caused my glasses to fall off, and then it was just, like, on my shoulder. So that's the only one that I know that acknowledged me, obviously, it talked to me, and then the ones across the way, I feel like some of them stopped and looked at me, but, I could be incorrect.
Did they, from what you remember, did they have any kind of features whatsoever about them? I mean, were they mushrooms with faces or
They were just like
mouths?
they were just mushrooms. There was no eye from what I could see, like the one that was on my shoulder, which would be the closest one. I didn't all I could see was like an arm. So it was just like a stem, and then it looked like 2 little other stubs on the sides of it, and then there was no eyeball. It just looked like a regular mushroom.
Like
Yeah,
the domed head, the cap
yeah,
of the mushroom was on it and everything.
yeah, and it spoke to me telepathically. It moved and everything, and it just I didn't see any eyeballs. I didn't see any mouth or anything. It was just a plain old mushroom with 2 stub looking things as arms.
How did you not spend your entire childhood just shitting your pants?
I don't know.
with,
So
with all with all that stuff, I'd have been running around as a 10-year-old kid still wearing a diaper because I would have been shitting myself constantly.
yeah, I will say that I did regression, and I that's came that memory came out of a regression therapy. So or regression hypnotic, whatever you call
Hypnosis.
it, hypnosis. So as there's a lot of there's a lot of trauma with my childhood between me and my mother, and so I I guess I basically either just forgot it or something. I'm really hoping that it's not like a figment of my imagination. Um, but I pulled out a couple memories and that just so I remember everything around it. Like I remember going out into the woods and then I remember my sister stepping on my glasses. And I remember my doctor being like, huh, your eyes are fine. That's weird. Um,
And your sister knew nothing of the mushroom people.
exactly. Yeah. And
She didn't see any of it.
yeah, when I did this regression, I actually talked to her about it and she's just like, she's like, I remember breaking your glasses and I remember being out, we were out in the woods all the time. She goes, but this memory is more like it like shaped you. She goes, so I'm not gonna remember it as fondly as you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
she's like, "I went out in the woods with you all the time, and I remember," she's like, "I remember stepping on your glasses, but that's about all I could tell you." So, yeah, because I was like, "Well, I remember you being like, 'Are you alright?'" She's like "I don't," she's like, I just don't remember it the way like, as well the way that you do, because it was different. It was a different experience between the 2 of us." So she's like, "And nothing it doesn't stand out to me as it does for you because obviously your glasses were broken and then you find out that your eyes are fine and now that you've done this regression, you remember this." And she's like, I can't like put validity to it for you."
Without digging into, I mean, you said a lot of trauma associated with you and your mom.
Mhm.
So I would assume breaking your glasses and having to go home and tell this woman that you broke your glasses would have been a shit your pants moment because it would not have bode well for you.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much, which surprisingly, um, she just said some curse words and that was it, and I was expecting more. So, which it was hard to tell with her, like, it was hard to tell how she was gonna react to certain things on certain days.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just there was a lot of things between her and I, and now, I love her because she's my mom, and, like, I'm not saying that she was the worst mothers, but there was definitely a lot of, unnecessary things that, she did to both me and my sister, to be honest. Um, yeah, and I think that's what another thing that connects me and my sister so much is because we went through the same abuse.
Yeah.
Um, and my older brother he was the first kid. so he was an angel, and then my younger brother was the baby, so he was an angel, and then everything just fell on me and my sister, and my mom had a resentment towards my dad, and be because of the divorce and everything, and I happen to look exactly like my dad, so the she's just associated me with my dad and my sister absolutely now as adults, my sister hates like, anybody putting any kind of parallels between me and my father. She's like, "He's not my dad." So, like at work, so me and my dad work together now, and a lot of the people, call me Junior, which first of all, I hate, um, but I let them so that they can associate the difference between me and my dad,
Yeah.
and my sister's now boyfriend actually worked with us for a little bit too, and he referred to me as Junior to her, and she's like, "Don't fucking call him Junior. His name is Kevin." So ever since then, he's never referred to me as Junior again. But yeah, so my glasses being broken definitely was I was like the main reason why I panicked and probably just put this memory to the back because I wanted to tell my sister once I saw her, but I was like my glasses. I wanted to get my glasses and then I was gonna tell her, and then they were broken, and I just freaked out and I was like, oh shit. But I needed them, so I absolutely needed to tell my mother because I needed another pair, but at the same time, it was very nerve-wracking to tell her things like that, for sure.
So when it happened, are you drinking a Celsius?
No, I'm it does look like one though, don't it?
At first, it's a Corona. Um, so my 2 cents is as at that age, your glasses get broke.
Mhm,
You don't know how your mom's going to react. Your little brain concocts this crazy story of how it's not your fault. The mushroom hit you on the head and your glasses fell off.
mhm.
You get home and you're surprised by the fact that your mom doesn't flip shit and react the way you expected her to. You forgot about coming up with that story to blame the breaking of the glasses on the mushroom people. And that in that regressive therapy, that memory of you concocting that story got pulled out.
That's plausible, for sure, for sure. Because when that memory came out, because I don't know where I mean, I'm like, "Did I dream it? Did I make it up? Or, like, did it really happen?" And for a while, I'm just like, I'm crazy, like, there's no way that this had happened. Um, but it feels very real, and I remember it, like, ever since bringing
Yeah.
that out, like, I see it. I can see it happening in my mind's eye, like it's a real memory,
Yeah.
and I want it to be real, but, like I've told some when I tell the story a lot of people, like, I'm just not 100% sure it really happened. Now everything around it definitely did happen, like, all the real world stuff and not,
Yeah.
like, the other realm kinda thing. Like, I remember everything around it actually happening, and again, like, I want it to be real, but I'm not 100% sure. And
That's a crazy one, man. If that really happened, and I think we talked before we even started recording. I've never heard of it before,
yeah, same.
and you've tried to research it, and you've not been able to find anything.
Yep. Yeah, and I told this story to Tony Merkel as well. And he was just like, "Do you play Dungeons and Dragons?" And I was like, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons." He's like, "Cuz the only thing that I can find on it is, a character from Dungeons and Dragons." I was like, "Oh, interesting. Makes me wish that I played Dungeons and Dragons now." Like, cuz now I'm interested, like I've still haven't like looked into the Dungeons and Dragons thing. He's like, "Yeah." He's like,
Yeah.
"Maybe I'll put it on my Reddit." and see if there's anything. And I haven't heard anything back about that, um, but yeah, it was interesting for sure. It's an interesting story.
It is
I
very.
hope it's real just because I want it to be. But I'm not going to pretend that it is 100%. Like it definitely could just be a thing that resided in the backspace of my mind.
Yeah.
And with the regression of trying to heal past traumas, which there's other things that came out with it that, was with my mom that I was just trying to heal parts of me. And and that came out with it, and I was just like, "What the hell?" And, yeah, it might not be real. So and I'm not gonna pretend, and I've never pretended like it's 100% real. I've been open and honest
Yeah.
about that, like, um, because not everything is spooky or,
Right.
paranormal, you know what I mean? So, there's some things that can be explained, and this could have just, like you said, like, something that maybe I made it up because I was a kid and I didn't wanna be in trouble for breaking my glasses because I wasn't sure how my mother was gonna react, and or
Yeah.
maybe it was a dream that happened to be around that time and it just came out as that. But either
It's
way,
possible.
my eyesight was phenomenally better.
That is understated in this. That is something weird because I'm not aware that that's something that typically happens, that your
Right,
eyesight gets better.
right, right, and it's interesting because now my daughter wears glasses too, and, my younger brother and my older brother both wear glasses, um, and so it's me and my sister are the only ones, and everybody remembers me wearing glasses, and then all of a sudden I just stopped wearing glasses. Because I just didn't need them anymore all of a sudden out of
Yeah.
nowhere. So it's that I think that's the part of that's the part that first of all, it's the coolest thing, because
Yeah, definitely.
if the experience is real, then they healed me. But if the experience isn't real and I made it up, I just don't know what would have caused my eyes just to I mean, maybe
Right.
going the 2 weeks, 2 or 3, maybe 3 weeks without the glasses, my eyes just, like, started adjusting themselves or something. I mean, but I really don't know.
Kevin Sapiel, ladies and gentlemen, host of Where the Weird Ones Are. Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man. I really appreciate you. Um, Thanks for the cool stories. And if you will, again, for the listeners, let everybody know where you're at, where they can find you, and what you got going on.
Alright, sir. So thank you for having me on. It was an honor. I've been listening to your show for the better part of a year or 2,
Oh,
now,
wow.
so
Thank you so much.
you're not a problem, man. You do wonderful. I
I
definitely
appreciate that.
love your voice and your cadence. Like you could do audiobooks, man, and I would friggin' consume that shit like nobody else. But yeah, again, so it's Where the Weird Ones Are. I'm on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. I'm on Instagram if you're interested in, following the weird stuff that I do, and being on top of who's coming up next for stories and stuff. And so it's where underscore the weird ones are on Instagram, where the weird ones are on Facebook, and then I have a website where the weird ones are podcast.com. And if anybody out there listening to this is interested in being a guest on my show to tell their weird stories, you can reach me at either the Facebook or the Instagram, or you can email me at where the weird ones are at gmail.com. And I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm so happy that you guys listen to Eric because he's phenomenal. So Eric, thank you for having me on tonight. It was a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure talking to you too, man. I appreciate the kind words. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, his show is good. Head over there, check it out. Make sure you leave him a 5-star. After you get done listening to a couple of episodes, leave him a nice review. Helps the algorithm. Don't be one of these jerks that decides to get behind the keyboard and leaves a crappy review. If you don't like it, just don't listen to it and move on. There's no reason to ruin all the hard work and effort that these podcasters go through to get their show out. So
absolutely, well said.
Again, Kevin, been a pleasure, man. Look forward to continued relationship with you, and I think maybe we talked about may end up being able to hear me on Kevin's show here in the future. So.
Absolutely, in a couple weeks.
All right, sir. Good night, and thank you.
Good night.